Cooper, our guest, is working from home, aka working from the House of Speed today. So while he's designing parts for electric automakers, we're also building old lumps of iron into powerful fuel-induced machines.
I don't even know what you just said, but...
I was trying to sound theatrical, but it just didn't make sense per usual. But this is a motor, this is how we start all of our M52 builds. This is the Mike Pagano special. I refuse to pay more than $100 for an M52, because guess what? They're like trash. So please stop paying $600 for beat up old M52s. The market's ridiculous. Just, this should be $100, and that's what I paid for it. I picked it up out of some guy's yard. It was upside down in the dirt. It's perfect. This is what we start with our built engines. We obviously clean them up, machine them, line hone them, deck them, put new pistons. Literally everything gets, all I want is the block, the main caps, and the crank. That's literally all I want. So what the engine this is the BMW M52 single Vanos. We have built M50, we have built M52, we've built M54. Of all the ones, all the M series motors, I like the M52 2.8 liter the best, because it has the extremely strong block. It's pretty inexpensive, unlike an M50. It has single Vanos, which helps with spool, and you have a shorter stroke than the S52 3.2 liter crank, so you have less piston speed and less harmonic problems, so you can spin it up higher without having to worry so much. With road racing, torque is like not my main concern, so if we lose a little bit of torque by reducing our displacement a little bit and stroke, like, I'm all for it. It's all good. So the goal with this car is racing, time attack at the highest level. So we want to make a ton of power all the way to this red line. Red line with these is 8,500 on our builds, and we do a couple of modifications that I'll show you to allow the motor to safely reach those RPMs without either losing power or becoming unreliable. The first thing we do, I guess, is the head. The head we use is a stock M52 head. I don't port it at all. We use Supertech springs, Supertech valves. This engine has Supertech Inconel and stainless valves. Those are nice and high temp, but we also, on our next motor, this motor, we built with Rally Road titanium valves. I'm excited to give those a try. I think they're actually made from like a Honda race team valve that's recut or something. I don't know, there's a cool story behind them. Looking forward to trying them, but the Supertech stuff's never done us wrong either. But like I said, completely stock, just with some valves, and then it's obviously flattened. These are the stainless valves, and these are the Inconel exhaust valves. It's pretty nice. And then we go to a solid lifter conversion, also from Supertech. So this is the solid lifter shim. These are made by Supertech, and this is how you shim your solid lifter conversions. It makes setting the lash a huge pain in the butt, because you have to take the whole cam tray on and off for every change you made. So you have to do a lot of notes, because it's going to take you a lot of tries to get them all perfect. And between the lash caps and sometimes skimming the top of the valve a little bit, you can get them all kind of where you want. The cams we're running to keep this motor happy at high RPM are the VAC solid lifter cams for the street. I think it's a 272, 264. I think that's right. But they've seemed to be working well. in the past with us. We're also making a big Vanos change. So we use these Vanos like cam angle 3D printed pieces from Perry Hubling. Chris, edit that so I said it the first time. So Perry Hubling, he makes these 3D printed caps. He also profiles cams, so I sent him my cams from VAC and got them all profiled up, and he made gave us some advice for where to set them for our build. He's like old school drag racer, been around the block with these motors a million times, so never pass on good judgment with experience. So, we take everybody's advice into consideration at a certain point. What else do we do? Oh, let's check this out. So, here's the new motor. This is after we get full rebuild. The things we do to it include, you can see the girdle that's sandwiched between the block and the oil pan. This actually also gets pinched by the main caps, so you don't lose any, you don't have any flex on the mains at all. So the main bearings stay really happy at really high RPM regardless of what's going on with harmonics and stuff. Or at least you hope so. It's not necessarily necessary for motors in the power range we're going for, which is about 850, but I like to run everything on the really safe side because road racing is just really, really hard on these engines. Consistent like boost is obviously much harder to control and cool than just like doing a hit down the drag strip. You know, we're sitting on the power for quite a long time, over and over and over again. So another thing we do is we remove the impeller on the water pump. The water pumps cavitate over like 5,000 RPM, 5,500 RPM, and you lose efficiency and it just makes bubbles and stuff. So what we do is we remove the impeller to let the water flow stay like fine, and then what we do is run an electric water pump on the outlet of the radiator, feeding that.
Radiator.
What?
I don't know. You said radiator.
The radiator.
Radiator.
Well, we put a water pump between the engine and the radiator, and it's just a lot more efficient and doesn't cavitate. And we don't lose cooling when we're at low RPM, and we don't lose cooling from cavitation at the high RPM. So it works well. Other things we're doing is
yeah, kick that box.
yeah, it's an Achilles. Other things we're doing is an Achilles oil filter housing delete. We run on the front of the car a big filter from like a LS or something. This is nice because I like to do all my feeds here. We have the Vanos feed, we have turbo oil feed, oil temperature, and then this is pretty cool. This is our Accu Sump trigger. So if the ECU, there's a map in the ECU, and whenever it sees RPM and oil pressure on each axis, so there's like a chart like this, and RPM and oil pressure, what it should be even when it's hot. So if it ever sees below a certain amount of PSI at an RPM, which should have higher PSI, it will fire off the Accu Sump and make up for any lack of oil pressure. And hopefully that lasts long enough until like whatever's going on in the pan, whether it be a huge corner or the car is upside down doing a kickflip, it doesn't burn up the motor. The pan is all baffled for the road course, and I considered doing dry sump, but I kind of just like, it never gave us, we don't actually have oiling problems. I just like to be prepared for whatever happens. Forever like, you know, doing whatever, I don't know. Cut this out.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, it's just better safe than sorry with this kind of stuff. So because we're going on an E46, and this is an M52, what you need to do is use the normal E46 motor mounts, and then you use an E46 pan, and you use a BMW E39 pickup tube for the oil pump. And that lets you just fit it in the car like normal. This is our Rally Road turbo arm we use to clear the turb ski, which sits around here. We run a Precision 6466 Jet
Yes.
2. Precision's, it seems to be working sweet. I don't know. People all have their own ingredients. What other things we run is this ATI damper. These engines, not necessarily this crank, but these engines in general have like not the best harmonics. So this damper keeps, keep everything smooth as possible. We run VAC 625 plus 10 mil head studs. These blocks aren't very good for drilling out and going to 12 millimeter. They seem to crack to the water jacket and stuff like that when you drill that through. Unlike an M54, which we often ran 12 mil to keep the head attached. But so to make up for that, we run these it's called space age material. Essentially, it's just made of unobtainium, and it's really expensive. But you're able to stay 10 mil and keep the head attached for most applications. But like I said, it's 850, and you see like Russians on YouTube making like 1300 on these motors. So I'm sure we'll be able to do it. So the pistons we're running right now are CP ProXtremes from VAC. They're 10-to-1 compression, and there's an 85 millimeter bore. If you look closely at cylinder 4, you can see we actually had to sleeve this engine because we had an injector failure or something, and we burned up this entire cylinder. Cut to B-roll of us taking apart my engine. It ended up being completely destroyed in one hole. Let me share with you the damage report here. All right, so here's the E46 up on the lift. Kind of just dropped out the bottom to get a quick little idea what's going on. And cylinder 4, yeah, she's super melty, boy. What's new? Stupid E46. Stupid E46. A couple more details about this engine is it runs the Molnar boost connecting rods. It runs king bearings. It has ARP main studs down below that match with the girdle from PPF, and it runs our oil pump, which has an upgraded shaft, a tensioner, and like a nice redone sprocket. All these things basically make for an M52 that really can't get any better. Unless you're doing some crazy porting job, I don't really know what's left to do on these motors. I do like to stay with a 2.8 crank, so I won't be changing to a 3.2, I don't think ever, just because of the type of racing we do. Stay tuned, we're gonna put together this engine and I guess show off some more little details of what we do here and there on these builds. So one of the pieces we also use is a cut ring head gasket. This is a SCE, but it's the same as Athena. I don't know, they're all made in the same place, they just get rebranded. Anyway, you always want to run like a mil or two bigger on the size of the cut ring head gasket as the cylinder bore size. So that's an 85mm bore, this is an 86mm gasket. These gaskets are also 2mm thick, so you reduce the compression a little bit, so you want to always take that into account, and also take into account how much you're cutting off the engine and the head when you're decking them. We find these are the best for continuous boost, like road racing applications. When you use an MLS, you're a lot more affected by heat and like overheating, especially when you have like, you know, one or two more laps you're trying to push and get the most out of the car. So kind of this will give you the usually the ability to push through and finish it and have the car survive versus, you know, losing a head gasket and having to pull the head at the track and replace it like we've done at Road Atlanta. So we like to go with these. It's kind of overkill in some applications, but on road racing we do like to use these. There's basically like a soft gasket, and then the steel rings are like grooved on the top, so the grooves go facing up into the head, and the engine essentially will cinch itself down, sandwich the gasket with the head studs, and compress the head into these grooves, sealing it, and then pushing against the block. So you're really not even using any sort of squishy material to seal the cylinder. The soft materials literally just like seal the oil galleys and the water galleys and stuff like that. It's kind of a cool system. It's not something I ever knew about until like a couple years ago, but it's been a nice thing to have. Whoa, almost dropped it. All right, let's put it together. Step one is to put a little bit of sealant, like right here and right here. It's like an easy thing to just forget to do. Basically, if you don't do this, your motor just leaks oil everywhere. It's a BMW, it's already gonna leak oil. Like, don't give it any more reasons to leak oil. There's wrapping. Good thing I'm prepared. I'll holster my weapon.
Such a dad.
Like I said before, this is literally an Athena gasket. If you're getting a cut ring gasket, it's probably coming from the same place. So now that the soft gasket's on, and you kind of splooged your RTV in the front, go ahead and grab the rings that fell out while you're unpackaging, because this is what happens every time. You always want to do the grooves facing up and the flat part facing down. And definitely do this while the motor's vertical if you can. It's easy to have them move a little bit when you install the head.
It's like a carnival game in popped out cylinder 4.
Yeah, it's kind of just like that when you're doing these. You gotta just take your time. Make sure everything stays happy. All right. So now it's good to me. The head is on. We use 2 studs because it just helps locate everything.
It also makes it really easy to go over the dowels. Don't forget your dowels.
Yeah, don't forget your dowels. So now, we're gonna install the rest of the studs. Like I said before, these are space age from VAC. I'm just gonna get these started with my fingers, and then I'll hit them with a little Allen wrench. That is not the stud hole. All right, pro tip for ARP head studs. Always use the lube on the washers and put it on both sides of the washer. You just want to reduce friction however possible. So we just lube the whole thing up. Not that much, just enough to just touch it up. But we're going to install all the washers first, and then we'll do the first stage of torquing in the correct pattern, obviously. But all these washers and stuff are made out of like some pretty intense tool steel. So it's good stuff from ARP. We use ARP like on all of our kits where possible, as far as like even chassis and braking stuff. Just can't beat it. It's kind of hard to get sometimes these days, but can't beat it.
So is it everything.
Yeah.
Thin ass metal gasket. No. My torque angle finder. Where it starts hurting your hand. All right, now feed her the beans. Just straight E98. They're torqued. Did it by hand. 85 foot-pounds. I felt it.
So, welcome back. All the studs and nuts are in. Basically, the torque spec we're going for is 85, so we're going to do 3 stages, 35, 65, 85. So I have it set to 35.
Go
1, 2,
into
3,
out.
4, 5, 6. Yeah, this is the middle one. So start in the center. When it vibrates your hand, you're good to go. So one more thing we like to do is once the head is torqued, because everything kind of seats, I undo one bolt at a time, let's loosen it, then retorque all the way to the max torque. That way you're getting maximum torque on each bolt. Required? Debatable. What we like to do? Yes. Okay, so are we filming now?
Oh, we're always filming.
All right, so we just got the head studs torqued. Now we're gonna put the intake cam tray in. Remember they're using solid lifters, so the solid lifter buckets and the shims on the valves. Because we don't want to mismatch anything, because it's all been like matched as far as tolerances go, we're gonna tilt the motor over on its side to install. And always double check that your dowels are still installed. Got dowel there, dowel there. You look good. And the tray marked E is the intake. It's just in German. The name of intake is knee. Yeah. And we do the angle here just so all the lifters don't start falling out. All right, that one's in.
Nice.
Now to go the other way.
Dude, is that a 2JZ? Wow, you're so strong.
Just be careful.
And now it's a BMW again.
So we're good.
Facing the right way?
Yep, Cooper, do you want to grab the chain for me, please? Oops, this one's marked A, actually. The exhaust isn't I, it's A, apparently. But the E always gets me.
approved.
Going vertical.
Going to Jay-Z.
There's a little wire.
Usually we just zip tie it.
Yeah.
Just kind of flops around. You can go back over the stud now.
Okay.
All right, what's next, Dr. M50?
The next step is to grab your exhaust cam.
Whoa, it's so loby.
I mean your intake cam. Yeah, these are some solid lobes. I'm gonna take a second to clean this up a little more. But yep, this is the VAC. Saw lifter cam. Turbo mild.
Turbo mild. We only buy the finest of lubes here.
Just lubing up the cam journals. All right, because
We're getting to my favorite part.
what's that?
Trying to put the caps on and torque them down, and you gotta
Yeah.
twist the thing. And
This is just the shitty part of just going down. Just to see the whole thing.
Yep, just gotta do it nice and even. When you're putting these cams in, if you're not even doing the caps, you're gonna break the cam. So just like kind of evenly go across everything. Make sure it's cinching down nice and easy. All right,
Big mods.
cams are in. So now we gotta look up the Perry Hubling's angle suggestions. Set the cams to those angles. Make sure we're TDC, which we are, and then time it, put the vanos together and stuff like that. All right, let's go fast forward to after I go through my email.
you're live.
So we have the cams in and we put the Alien Engineering cam blocks on. 0 degrees on the exhaust, 8 degrees retarded on the intake. Now all we have to do is the timing and put the vanos on. So I'll get started doing that. There's like lots of tutorials online. I mean, I even follow a tutorial just to make sure I don't forget anything. This definitely isn't a tutorial how to time your engine. All right, well, as you can see, the vanos is on, the cams are in. I timed up the motor with the little cam blocks and spun it twice, and it's still in the same spot. So I guess we did the vanos right, but we should have done it right. I've done this like 100 times, so it's pretty straightforward in the single vanos engines. A little more tricky in the double vanos. But some little details before we wrap this video up is the thermostat housing, radiator hose thing. This is kind of custom made from an E39 one, so we can run our electric water pump and also have little fittings for both our expansion tank, which we run as a radium, and also for our coolant pressure sensor. This used to also mount the expansion tank right here, but we no longer do that. We have a nice little vanos cover. The cams are on with new hardware and stuff we got from ECS. Run the Bezian Vanos rebuild kit, which is like a new seal for the vanos, so make sure it functions correctly. We run an S54 main chain tensioner, which is nice. And then I guess in the next video, it'll be pretty exciting. It's the fun stuff that I like doing. Is we're gonna throw the manifold on, which is from ECS. Oh, sorry, not from ECS. It's from CES. There's too many E's and C's and S's. This is covered in header shield, so for some extreme heat management in the engine bay. So we're gonna put the EGT sensors in here, get this manifold up on the engine with some new hardware, get the Precision 6466 Gen 2 turbo on there. I'll do all the fun stuff. We kind of did the boring stuff here, but I think the engine's ready to go pretty much. I'm not too worried about anything. It came out all right. Nothing's kind of rearing its head anymore. So yeah, come back in the next video. We'll also go over the details of the Accu Sump system and how we're going to fire that. And put the beautiful PPF intake on. Just a couple valve covers we have going back and forth. We'll do a video on how to install our E46 catch can kit, which is pretty straightforward, but it adds a really nice dual hose setup to your catch can with the. Damn it, Sean. Sean's on a scooter.
God damn it, Sean.
So anyway, we're gonna drill holes in the valve cover and show you our catch can kit using the Vibrant catch can, which is pretty awesome. Works well on pretty intense builds like this. And yeah, hopefully enjoy this motor pretty soon. After that, we're gonna slap it on to the DCT and then drop it back in the car. So I guess let me throw the valve cover on here. I let the powder coat guy kind of have at it. I don't know if you can see, but it's kind of like a rainbow. But
Get a good picture when it's on.
yeah,
It's magnesia. How much does that thing weigh?
like 2 pounds maybe, not
Like
even.
8 pieces of paper.
Yeah, it weighs nothing, but they're always old and crusty, but I like getting coated a little bit. Obviously there's no gasket in there. I need to wait for one to come, but I guess plugs next, valve cover gasket, and then all the fun stuff begins.
It's crazy.
Finally.
The LEDs.
Can't wait to hear this thing start up again. It's gonna be great. Cannot wait.
Dude, do a kickflip.
I'll break it. I think these are like 150 max weight.
You weigh more than 150.
190. I don't know, we're gonna scale the crowd.
The Razor Scooter gang.